Hey, my fellow Omi homies, it's Foster, and I'm back at it again with another Veve Indie Komi video. I wanted to let you know that I've been paying attention to all the comments and anyone that's been following up with my videos previously. I know a few people had been saying that they were having difficulties hearing me, so I've gone and changed all the microphone settings, so you should be able to hear me a little bit better for today's video. I also wanted to take a quick moment just to thank everyone for all of the comments and interaction that I'm getting on all of my videos. My channel's doubled in size in the last week or so. I think I'm at over 200 subscribers now, which is absolutely fantastic. It's never something that I was aiming for. I've just enjoyed kind of putting the content together for myself and showing a couple of my close friends. But to see so many people enjoying the content, I think, the vast majority of my videos are getting, over a 90% like ratio. And I am getting quite a bit of comments from everyone. And as you can see, I do respond to all the comments that are being left. So I just wanted to give a quick thank you to everyone that has been taking the time to interact with me. I really do appreciate it, and it does motivate me to keep going. So what do we have for you guys today? I managed to get an interview with a top 100 Omi token holder. That's right. One of the top 100 wallets, and that includes, exchange wallets, token lockup wallets, everything. So this is a pretty big deal. Someone who's definitely got a lot of tokens in the community, and someone who I was very excited to be able to touch base with and get their thoughts on several different issues. So how did this interview come together? Because I know a lot of you are going to sit there and say, well, why did this person bother to speak with you? Like, how did this come about in the first place? So I'd just like to give a shout out to Cyber 80s NFT, someone who's always been very active, commenting on the socials and in my videos. Always appreciate the support, so thank you for that. He brought up a comment a few days ago while I was speaking with someone on Twitter and made a comment to the effect of, hey, it would be cool if you spoke to someone who had a lot of tokens. I would really love to hear their perspective. Like I said, I make these videos because you guys are interested in them, as well as the fact that I'm interested in them. So I took that opportunity to reach out to the community on Twitter and just put out a feedback request, letting everyone know that I was going to be interviewing an individual, and asked if anyone had any questions. And I think I had 16 or 17 people comment and have different questions or comments that they'd like to have answered. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for everyone that put in the time to ask a question. I did my best to get as many of them answered as possible and to give you this individual's perspective. I will say, going into this, I call it an interview. This individual elected to not participate in any form of live interview, whether it be on face cam or otherwise. I think they indicated that they just weren't comfortable and that they weren't necessarily a YouTube personality per se. So I respected that. So what I did is contacted them privately and asked them a bunch of questions and let them get back to me on the questions in writing. And then what I've done through this is included the questions, the answers that they provided, and I'll also be providing some commentary and context based on the answers that they provided, my thoughts on certain issues. And of course, if you guys have any questions or comments, I would love to hear about them in the comment section below. So to get started, our interviewee just wanted to mention, and I wanted to, honor their wishes and put in the disclaimer. They indicate that they're not by any means a crypto expert, nor do they have any insight into what Ecomi is currently doing. They can only offer their own opinions and anything they've witnessed in the past. And of course, they want you to enjoy. So just remember, guys, as always, as with my videos and as with the information you're going to be receiving today, it's not financial advice. We all know that, but it's got to be said. So with that, let's move on. So who is our wallet holder? His name is Michael. He's 34 and he lives in Sydney, Australia. How did he first hear about Ecomi, and what were his initial thoughts on the project? He first met Ben Gadenzi in 2017 through mutual army mates. A friend of his used to work with Ben when they were in the army, so they'd all go out for drinks. He didn't hear much about Ben until the following year when a mutual friend mentioned Ben had possibly found the best crypto project relating to Ecomi and was looking to work with them. He looked into Ecomi that day and thought it looked great. He said it was the addition of Al Khan which sold him. He had spent several years of his life playing Pokemon when he was a kid, so it was a no-brainer, and he ended up investing later that week. I asked him how long he had been invested in the Omi token and if he held any other investments. He says, I first invested in Ecomi's crowd sale in September 2018. Since then, I've bought into 2 private sales and then purchased from the exchange. My next biggest bag is Evolution Finance, which I have high hopes for in the next year, though I have already done substantially well from. I previously held a large bag of GoChain, which I purchased in 2018, but recently sold to buy more Omi. So as we can see, Michael, bought in the original, ICOs and private sales that were done all the way back in 2018. And since then, he's still accumulating all the way up until recently when he even sold another crypto in GoChain to purchase more Omi. So that obviously goes to show how bullish he is on the project. He says he doesn't own any traditional stocks or real estate, so he's not diversified in that way. He's not looking for some money. He's looking for life-changing money. And for him, that means crypto. He says, this is why I didn't sell any Omi at the all-time high, because I believe it can go further. It's a question that I ask him later, and it will be referenced, but he does indicate that he hasn't sold any of his Omi tokens so far. And once you see how many he's holding, you'll realize why that's a big deal. How many tokens does he hold? Just over 300 million. This puts him right around the top 100 wallets, and especially so if you exclude the founder tokens that are still locked up in increments and any wallets that are holding money on exchanges. So he's holding 300 million. At today's prices, he's holding just under $1 million worth of Omi. Are you still accumulating tokens? He's definitely accumulated over time. His most recent purchase was about 5 weeks ago when I bought a small trading bag to keep on the exchange. So we know that Michael, who's been bought into the project since 2018, has 300 million tokens, has continued to accumulate throughout the years, and as recently as 5 weeks ago was still purchasing tokens. And when we were at our all-time high of 0.013 cents, when he would have had well over $1 million, he did not sell a single token. Amazing. Have you taken profits? What is your exit strategy in the short and long term? As you can see, guys, I asked these questions in writing, so some of them may have already partially been answered, but I did want to include all of his answers in their entirety based on the questions that I had asked. So we will continue. He says he hasn't taken any profits in any crypto yet. He says he's not comfortable, or he is comfortable with his life and doesn't need the cash. So I would rather it sit in crypto where it can possibly grow. Well, definitely anyone that knows anything about Ecomi knows that we can definitely see a lot of catalysts to make it grow. So he sounds like a wise guy. His plan is not to take any profit until it surpasses the all-time high, and then he'll take out small amounts, though a large portion will stay long-term. He doesn't specify what those specific numbers are, but, obviously looking to get to at least a couple cents before he pulls out some profits. And then he's going to continue to hold the vast majority of it long term. So that just goes to show you that, he really understands from all the way back in 2018 what the project was and where it's going. And that's very exciting. He indicates that, as Ben Gadenzi said, it is stupid to hurt your own investment by selling large quantities at once. Small orders which can be swallowed by buy pressure. So essentially he's saying, don't put up a massive sell wall, put in small orders over time that will be eaten up by buy pressure. That way you're not hurting the value of the rest of your tokens by putting them all up to suppress the upward price momentum. As an OG investor, you have seen all of the ups and downs. What are your thoughts on the project from 2018 until the present? He says, any investor who has been with Ecomi since 2018 can attest to some trying times. There were many delays and #soons. The thing which kept me positive was knowing we had Alcon and likely some killer licenses. And of course, we've seen we already got some pretty killer licenses. As the project stands, it has obviously had an outstanding 10 months since launch. It is wildly successful in the crypto world, and the team are reaping the rewards. I think we can all agree that, we've seen the Veve app make over, I think we're probably over $50 million now in the first 6 months of the year. And given that they only thought that they were going to have, 30,000 users by the end of the year, and they're already teetering around 500,000, the growth has been exponential. Currently, Veve has been successful beyond what anyone could have thought in the first year, yet Omi is not there yet. I firmly believe this is because of the lack of utility. The team have addressed this, and if they follow through on what they say, I believe there will be a sharp rise in token price. Now, of course, we know the Omi token right now doesn't have any utility, but we've heard through various sources, Dan, David, Reese, in AMAs and in interviews, they are planning on adding several forms of utility for the token. So these are very exciting times over the next couple months, I would imagine. What are features or factors that you are most excited about with the Veve app and the Omi token in the near future? And what impact do you believe it will have on the Omi token? He's most looking forward to token utility. I was worried about this in the past because Veve does not need token utility. Dan and Dave have said time and again they are creating a product for the mass market, aka non-crypto users. Adding token utility such as staking does nothing for the mass market and may even get the users a little offside if some people are getting benefits and they aren't. So why would they add it? There is no legal obligation, but perhaps there is a moral one. Yes, the argument could be made that they have the founders' tokens, so it is in their best interest to see the price rise. But with the amount of money Veve is making, I'm not sure this plays as much of a factor as people think. Last week's AMA helped settle my stomach about this. Dan mentioned token utility a few times, and it appears to be something they will focus on once migrated to immutable. I am beyond excited for this and believe it will be the catalyst for price rise. So as you can see, Michael's been, invested for, coming on 4 years now. He obviously has a firm grasp and understanding of the project, and he's been through the years of struggle where there was no product. Hashtag soon was literally for absolutely everything that was taking place on the project. And he brings up some good points. Like what he's saying makes sense. At the end of the day, unlike with a traditional stock where the company has a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to do what's in the best interest of them, technically with crypto, it's not the same. So at the end of the day, if Ecomi or any other project for that matter decided to not put a focus on the token or leave the token behind, or, we've seen projects even rug tokens or whatever the case may be, there's not as many protections there. So I think it really is important to be hearing this from Michael. And of course, we've heard it from the Ecomi team, what their priorities are and why it's important for us, because we'll be able to see the utility of the token, which should in turn cause the price to rise. I ask him, what do you believe factors such as the move to immutable, the MTL, the Master Collector Program, and the Veveverse will do to the price, action, and adoption of the Omi token? Michael, reiterating once again, he thinks the move to immutable will be good because it will get more eyes on the NFTs once they reach OpenSea, though he's not personally think that there will be a huge price impact with that. He says there'll be a rise, then a drop, and he believes we might settle around 0.005, based on nothing but his own thoughts, of course. He thinks the implementation of the MTL will be crazy in the first month, which I think a lot of people have speculated because a lot of people understand the importance of being able to convert their gems into fiat or Omi into gems and all the avenues that will open up. People will sell collectibles because they can finally cash out, lowering the NFT floor. Then new investors will jump in because they no longer have the fear of never being able to cash out. For the value of Omi, I don't think it will have an effect. So he's saying he doesn't actually believe that the MTL will necessarily be a catalyst to the value of the Omi token, but he does understand the value of it from the collectible side and believes more people may onboard onto the app, knowing that they can safely take their money off afterwards. He indicates the Master Collector Program is what he's all about. He says it will be huge if you pay for it in Omi, which is burnt from the circulating supply. While I know there will need to be a Master Collector for people not holding Omi, I truly hope they do not cut away the staking. It will be difficult for the team to get the balance right. The top level should not be attainable for most people, because if everyone is using it, your benefits will be diluted and not worth as much. Likewise, the lower level should not be attainable to everyone, because then you will end up with a situation where most people have access to it, therefore making it almost a requirement to pay to use Veve, which I think is bad. I think what Michael says here, and I won't touch too much on it because I think he's doing a better job than I could. He brings up some interesting points when it comes to staking as a form of utility and the Master Collector program, however it may be rolled out. And I think he brings up some good points about the top level not being attainable for most people. But I think the even better point that he makes, and something that I never thought about in this light, is the bottom level not being attainable for everyone, which could be an issue. Because if the bottom level, like essentially if you make the bottom level cheap but affordable to everyone, then you're basically saying that this program will be a pay to play or a pay to win situation, which I think is interesting. And he brings up a point that what rewards or benefits do you offer someone with the Master Collector program if you have to pay to earn certain levels? Now, of course, we've discussed, in several different videos, several YouTubers have covered it. I don't think that the levels will just be you pay X amount of money and you get this level. I think a portion of it may include being able to stake or whatever the case may be to earn points towards levels. But it's a very interesting thing to consider that, like he says, the lower level should not be attainable to everyone, because then you will end up with a situation where most people have access to it, therefore making it almost a requirement to pay to use Veve. So it'll be really interesting to see how they roll out these levels and, whether there is a freemium version where you can just earn these levels without having to put any money into it, or whether there is going to be a pay model. And I think it will be an iterative process, and I don't think it's something that they're going to get right immediately. And I think the community will play a large role in shaping what the Master Collector program ends up being. He goes on to say, it is hard to say with the Veveverse because we know so little about it. If Omi is burnt from the circulating supply, I think price impact will be huge. If Omi is burnt from an out of circulating wallet, I'm not sure the price rise will be there unless buybacks have begun. Perhaps they can increase the percentage of the buybacks for purchases in the Veveverse since they do not need to pay for IP. This is also a really interesting point that Michael brings up. We know that with the introduction of the Veveverse that there are going to be several Veve branded items that come out of the Veveverse, whether it be, shelving, picture frames, couches, whatever the case may be, to decorate your showrooms. And because these are licensed through Veve itself, they don't have to pay themselves a royalty or anything of that nature. So they may be able to increase the buyback percentage because they don't need to allocate as much of a percentage to their licensor, which could directly in turn result in additional Omi burn. What Michael's referencing when he says if Omi is burnt from the circulating supply, I just want to reiterate, as I have in some few previous videos, right now what is happening is that Omi is coming from, when they do the burn, it's coming from the reserve, moving to the vault. So essentially it's going from one out of circulated wallet to another out of circulation wallet. So what that means is, if we were taking it directly out of the circulating supply, we're automatically decreasing the amount of active tokens in circulation, which over time, assuming that the same amount of money is in the space, will essentially automatically increase the value of the token. But when we're doing it from the out of circulating supply, it's not actually increasing the value because it's not decreasing the active amount of tokens that are in the circulation. I imagine eventually, whether it be that we have to get through the entire reserve or whether they leave some of those tokens behind, whatever the case may be, we will get to that point eventually. We're not there yet, but it is an exciting thing to look forward to. What are the biggest obstacles and challenges for Omi moving forward? Says, I believe the team hiring enough devs will be an issue. Being able to deliver multiple drops per week is a big ask with a small team. especially while devs also need to work on the different aspects of the app and the Veveverse. Now, I know this is something that several content creators have covered previously, and I think Michael hits the nail on the head with this being the biggest issue. I apologize, I can't remember off the top of my head who has mentioned it. I think it's been more than one content creator anyways, but they've said it's not a ability issue. I think it was Cavell actually. He says it's not a ability issue, it's a content issue. Is how much can the team realistically produce with the amount of people that they have. So I think their team is probably around 30 people now with a couple of the devs that they've added in the back end. So realistically, are they going to be able to sustain 4 drops a week plus producing the Veveverse and all of the other things that they have working in the background? I think that's where they're really going to utilize their partnerships with different licensors, whether it be, Marvel to assist them in creating and rendering their collectibles, or whether it be, them working with Unity directly to generate, whatever the case might be. We do know that back in 2018, there was an article that surfaced that showed that Veve had partnerships with Decentraland. So whether that ends up, coming to fruition and Veve utilizes some of these partnerships in order to expand their team without having to officially add to their roster is something that's yet to be seen. But I think in order for the team to continue to be successful, they're going to need to continue to add resources onto their team, and they're going to need to continue to reach out and generate partnerships with different companies in order to add all of the items that they're looking to see roll out in the app moving forward. What are your feelings on whales who have been putting up sell walls and who have been alleged to have been suppressing the upward momentum of the token over the past several months? It is obviously frustrating. I want my investment to go up just as much as the next person. I believe the answer is getting the masses wanting to buy into Ecomi to chew through those sell walls and leave the whales behind. For this, as always, my answer is token utility. Now, we know Michael has indicated that he hasn't sold any tokens yet. We're going to have to take him at his word for that. He's indicating that, obviously he's frustrated as well by all of these situations that have been taking place, because at the end of the day, it is hurting his investment as well. He did indicate that he has not sold any Ecomi. He did not sell at the all-time high, and he's not planning to sell until we surpass our all-time high. So I think we can all agree that it is in everyone's best interest to see the project moving forward. And I think he, is 100% on the ball when he says the answer is token utility. Whatever the form that might take, whether it be Ecomi to NFT directly, whether it be the Master Collector program, whether it's the move to immutable, whatever the utility comes in as a form as, I think once we start to see an actual use case for the token, we will see a lot of people that have been sitting on the sidelines speculating on the project, jumping in. And I think when we eventually do start to see a price increase, it will happen quite quickly and it will be quite drastic. Do you have a price prediction for where you believe the coin will be in the next 1, 3 to 5 years? I asked him this just for fun. Obviously, just because he's been in the project longer doesn't mean that he has a crystal ball that will let us know exactly what the token will be worth. But I figured get his thoughts, see where his head's at. So he says, absolutely zero idea, and then has a little chuckle. But for a bit of fun, I will say by this time next year, if token utility, immutable transfer, exchanges, the Veveverse, Master Collector, and the MTL have been implemented, I would guess at 4 cents. And he puts in brackets, I know this is not what people want to hear. Sorry. He says in 3 years, he thinks it'll be 12 cents. And in 5 years, he thinks it will be 30 cents. He's been invested for 4 years already. So he's hoping that in 9 years total for his investment, it will be worth 30 cents per token. If it's worth 30 cents based on his 300 million tokens, and if he holds it all the way until that point, he'll have $100 million. So the price prediction sounds conservative, but you also have to understand the perspective and where he's coming from. I think for a lot of us that invested earlier this year, after we already saw like a $6,000 to $10,000 or 6 to 10,000% price increase, I think that it's easy to say Ecomi to $1, Ecomi to $10, because it sounds fun and like an attainable goal. I would say that these price predictions, in my opinion, are conservative, but I also think that they're realistic. And I think that that is an important distinction to make. I think, and this is just a personal opinion, I think if anyone is disappointed in a 30-cent Omi token in 5 years, I question your understanding of investing. Granted, crypto is not the stock market where we're looking for 6% returns. But in my opinion, and to reiterate, not financial advice, Omi, outside of maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum and possibly Cardano, this is the surest thing when it comes to a long-term investment that is going to essentially guarantee, in my opinion, and why I've invested, a solid return on your investment. Yes, there are tons of coins that you can speculate on and invest that may 1000x, but are also equally, if not more likely, to go to zero. I didn't invest the amount of money that I did in this project because I wanted to, quote unquote, risk it or gamble it away. I did my research into this project. I understood it. I understood the fundamentals. I researched the team. I understand the concepts behind it. And I understand where we are going if the team can continue to gain traction with the Veve app. So, I know it might not be the numbers that some people want to hear, but I would say that if in 5 years we were at a 30-cent Omi token, you're still looking at a 100x from where you are currently, which I think for a lot of people in this project would be life-changing money. So just remember that, guys. It's not a dollar. And once again, he could be wrong. It could be less, it could be more, but I agree roughly with where he's coming up with these numbers. And I think it's just important to kind of ground yourself and just remember that. And if it is more, I'd be the first one to be happy to be wrong. If you could send any message to the Omi community, many of whom may be new to the project or even new to investing, what would it be? He says, I got to my position through patience and trust. Trading is exhausting and emotional. Find a project you believe in and sit tight. While hopium feels great, it will ultimately burn you if you let it get out of control. Seeing price predictions of $1 and $10 is going to hurt people if they believe it. Have hope, but make it realistic. I suppose I could have just let Michael sum it up for us because I think he did a pretty fantastic job. And I guess I didn't need to rant on the last slide there, but I just think it's important, guys, that we take a step back and we realize that if we invested our money in traditional means, we'd be getting 6% per year. So what is an acceptable amount of money for you to be making, in my opinion, almost risk-free? Because short of the entire team passing away and no one picking up the project after them, I failed to see this project not continuing on and becoming the biggest digital collecting app in the world, and the Omi token becoming one of the biggest crypto projects in the cryptocurrency space. People drastically underestimate token utility and what mass adoption is going to do when Veve can onboard millions of users who are not native to crypto and get them to use a project that has a crypto background in it without them even needing to know what crypto is. It just gets me so excited, and I hope that all of you guys are excited too. I just wanted to thank Michael for taking the time to answer these questions. I know it can take a lot to put yourself out there. I know he didn't reveal a ton of personal information about himself, but to come out and own up to having 300 million tokens and being willing to give your perspectives and have that put online, I can understand him possibly having reservations. So I do genuinely want to say thank you to Michael for taking the time. And I hope that you guys all valued the information that he provided. If you have any questions for myself or for Michael, leave them in the comments. I don't mind contacting him and doing a follow-up. If there's anyone else in the community who is interested in doing a similar form of interview, I would like to try and do one maybe in a live interview type style. You don't need to have 300 million tokens. You don't even need to have 1 million tokens. If you're just interested in telling your story as to why you invested in the project and you have a message that you'd like to send to the Ecomi community, I would love to assist you in providing that platform to you. Once again, the reason I created this YouTube channel is to interact with the community and support the community towards a goal of seeing the project become the most successful thing in its space. Thank you for sticking with me again, guys. I love you. Peace.